Let's get right into it. Number 10. Pompeii victims died from heat shock. Everyone thinks the victims of Pompeii choked on ash. Wrong. Scientists just discovered something that will make your skin crawl. These people boiled alive from the inside out. When Mount Vesuvius erupted, it didn't just spit out ash. It launched waves of superheated gas at 300 degrees Celsius. That's hot enough to turn water into steam instantly. Now imagine what happened to human blood. Scientists found mysterious red and black stains on victims' bones. Know what that is? Iron deposits from blood that literally boiled and vaporized inside their veins, their muscles, their organs. Everything soft in their bodies just turned to vapor in a heartbeat. The heat hit so hard it made skulls explode. Their brains turned to steam so fast the pressure cracked their heads open like eggs. This happened faster than you can blink. That's why we find bodies frozen in everyday poses. They were flash fried exactly where they stood. 1 second alive, the next second gone. Those famous Pompeii bodies in museums? They're not even bodies. They're just empty spaces where vaporized humans used to be. The ash filled in the gaps their bodies left behind. You're looking at human-shaped holes in history. Number 9. Ötzi the Iceman's final hours. Imagine being so unlucky that you die on a mountain, but so lucky that your corpse becomes one of the most important scientific discoveries ever. That's what happened to Ötzi the Iceman, a man who died 5,300 years ago in the Alps. Scientists recently figured out exactly what this ancient man was doing in his final hours, and they did it by studying something unusual: pollen in his stomach. Those tiny bits of pollen acted like breadcrumbs, showing exactly where he went before he died. In just 33 hours, this man went on quite the adventure. He started up high in the mountains, around 8,000 feet. Then for some reason, he went down into the valleys, only to turn around and climb back into the freezing peaks. Scientists think he was running from someone or something. He was climbing thousands of feet in altitude in just hours. It was like running up and down a skyscraper, except you're also trying not to freeze to death. And we know exactly what killed him: an arrow to the back. This wasn't just some man who got lost in the mountains. He was murdered. And his last meal was still digesting when it happened. Number 8. King Tut's death by malaria and a broken leg. For years, people thought King Tut was murdered, poisoned by enemies, taken down in some palace plot. The truth is way more tragic and totally random. In 2010, scientists ran DNA tests and CT scans on his 3,300-year-old mummy. This teenage pharaoh wasn't assassinated. He just had terrible luck, and even worse, genetics. His parents were brother and sister. Ancient Egyptian royalty kept their bloodline way too close. That left Tut with serious birth defects, including a club foot that made walking painful. But that's not what killed him. What got him was a deadly combination. He broke his leg, probably from a bad fall. Then malaria moved in for the kill. Today, you'd get a cast and some pills. Back then, a broken leg was an open invitation for every infection in Egypt. And those Nile mosquitoes weren't messing around. Picture this teenage king limping around with a busted leg, burning with fever, trying to run an empire. Scientists even found malaria parasites still preserved in his mummy. After 3,000 years, we have the world's oldest evidence of a really, really bad week. Number 7. The Black Death's true origin. Scientists digging in Kyrgyzstan found some old teeth and accidentally solved history's deadliest mystery. These weren't random teeth. They belonged to plague victims from 1338. Inside those ancient molars was DNA from the exact plague strain that would later kill half of Europe. For centuries, nobody knew where the Black Death started. Now the mystery is finally solved. It all began in tiny Kyrgyzstan, right on the Silk Road. The graves near Lake Issyk-Kul even had tombstones that literally read, "Died of pestilence." Pretty specific for medieval times. The DNA in those teeth is like the great-grandfather of all plague bacteria that terrorized Europe. Scientists found patient zero for history's worst pandemic. Some trader probably caught the plague there and carried it along the Silk Road. That person had no clue they were basically a walking biological weapon. The Silk Road connected the whole ancient world. Great for business. Terrible for containing deadly diseases. Instead of delivering silk and spices, they accidentally shipped the apocalypse. Number 6. The Antikythera mechanism. Divers found a 2,000-year-old computer at the bottom of the sea. Not a laptop, but an ancient Greek device made of bronze gears that shouldn't exist for its time. Scientists discovered this thing in 1901, broken into 82 corroded pieces. As it looked like underwater junk, but in 2021, X-ray machines revealed its secrets. This machine could predict where planets would be centuries ahead. It knew when eclipses would happen, all with gears inside gears, working like a tiny metal universe. This technology was impossible for its time. Nothing like it appeared again for 1,400 years. Finding this is like discovering an iPhone in Julius Caesar's pocket. The mechanism tracked the moon's irregular orbit better than some modern watches. Scientists even found microscopic inscriptions all over it. Ancient instruction manuals carved into metal so small you need magnification to read them. The Greeks who built this weren't just smart. They were showing off. They created something so advanced, we're still figuring out how it works. This wasn't theory. This was practical astronomy in your pocket. 2,000 years before anyone else could even dream of it. Number 5. The Babylonian math tablet that changed history. Imagine you're an archaeologist in the early 1900s. You dig up a weird clay tablet covered in numbers. You think it's just some ancient homework assignment or maybe a receipt for grain. Something boring like that. But it turns out you're holding proof that the Babylonians invented trigonometry 1,500 years before the Greeks. This tablet, called Plimpton 322, is basically the world's oldest math textbook. But here's the kicker. They weren't using angles or circles like we do today. They had their own system, using exact ratios. People from 3,700 years ago were doing math with terrifying precision. No calculators, no computers, not even paper. Just wet clay and a stick. And they crushed it. This wasn't just theoretical stuff either. They used this math to build massive temples and design entire cities. Number 4, the Nazca Line's hidden water map. You're an ancient Peruvian. It's scorching hot. You're dying of thirst. Google Maps is still 2,000 years away. What do? Apparently, you draw massive pictures in the desert. For a long time, everyone assumed these drawings were for aliens or just really bored artists with way too much free time. But in 2016, scientists finally cracked the code. These weren't random doodles. They were maps of underground water. Using satellite imagery, researchers discovered that these massive lines matched up perfectly with underground aquifers. When you're living in one of the driest places on Earth, water is more precious than gold. So you create the world's biggest treasure map. These lines weren't just practical. They were also spiritual. During severe droughts, entire communities would walk these massive patterns together, performing rituals and praying for water, while standing right above it. It's like these ancient people had X-ray vision to see beneath the desert. Number 3, Stonehenge builders came from Wales. Scientists just discovered that the builders of Stonehenge were ancient road trippers from Wales. These people traveled 180 miles just to stack rocks. And this was 4,000 years ago, when traveling meant dodging wolves and hoping you didn't die along the way. How did scientists figure this out? By studying burned bones buried at Stonehenge. When you eat food, your bones absorb strontium, a chemical element that varies depending on where you live. Welsh strontium is different from Stonehenge strontium. It's like prehistoric fingerprinting. About 40% of the people buried at Stonehenge spent their last decade in Wales. And they didn't just bring themselves. They dragged 4-ton bluestones from the Welsh mountains all the way to Salisbury Plain. Imagine moving today, but instead of renting a truck, you drag your couch 180 miles on foot. These bones weren't just dumped either. They were carefully buried in special pits. Fancy funeral burials for important people. These Welsh folks weren't just visitors. They were the architects. Number 2. Dead Sea Scrolls' invisible passages. Picture this. You've got ancient scrolls that people have been studying for decades, convinced they know everything about them. Then in 2020, scientists bring in new technology, and suddenly, there's secret writing everywhere. These are the Dead Sea Scrolls, some of the oldest biblical manuscripts ever found. For years, scholars looked at blank fragments and thought they were just that, blank. But when researchers used multispectral imaging, like Instagram filters on steroids, hidden text came to life. They uncovered a detailed temple calendar that revealed exactly how ancient temples scheduled ceremonies down to astronomy and math. These people weren't picking random days. They had systems. Even more shocking, some passages don't match any biblical texts we know about. It's like finding a deleted scene from a classic movie that changes the entire story. This discovery is rewriting everything we thought we knew about ancient Jewish history. Number 1, Neanderthal cave art finally authenticated. Imagine walking into a dark cave in Spain and seeing something that changes everything we thought we knew about our ancient cousins. Deep red lines and strange symbols cover the walls, hidden away for over 65,000 years. But here's the twist. These weren't made by humans. They were made by Neanderthals. You know, the so-called primitive cavemen people always joke about. Turns out, they were far more sophisticated than we ever believed. Scientists used a clever dating method based on uranium decay in the cave walls, nature's own timestamp, and it doesn't lie. These paintings are at least 65,000 years old, 20,000 years before modern humans even set foot in Europe. These weren't random scribbles. They were complex patterns, ladder-like shapes, and meaningful symbols. For years, scientists dismissed Neanderthals as incapable of creating art. They didn't even bother checking how old these cave paintings really were. Now we know better. This discovery forces us to rewrite our family history. Neanderthals weren't just surviving. They were creating. They were thinking. If they were expressing themselves through art, then they were a lot closer to us than anyone ever imagined. That's all for today. I'll be making similar videos in the future. Subscribe to see them.